The storm whispers secrets that I'm not sure I'm ready to hear. What could it be this time? Emma said, looking outside with her eyes fixed on the rain droplets racing down the window. As the rain tapped gently where Emma sat in the living room floor, with her legs crossed. Her favorite blanket, now worn out but still comforting, was draped over her shoulders. Besides her was Nathan, who perched on the edge of the sofa. The tension between them hung in the air, heavier than the storm outside. It had been 2 days since their last fight. Neither had spoken since, except for brief exchanges about groceries or misplaced keys. They were both tired, not just from the argument itself, but from the unspoken weight of misunderstandings that had built up over the past few months. Nathan broke the silence first and said, "Emma, can we talk about this? I can't stand the distance anymore." Emma hesitated, her gaze dropping to the teacup in her hands, and she said, "Talk about what, Nathan?" Her voice was soft, but the hurt behind her words was unmistakable. So Nathan responded and said, "The way we always end up hurting each other, even when we don't mean to do so." Nathan sighed, running a hand through his hair. He had always been better at fixing things with his hands than with his words. But tonight, he knew he had to try something different. "Maybe that's the problem," Nathan said. "We're both so scared of saying the wrong thing that we end up not saying anything at all." So Emma glanced up at him, her brow furrowed. She had always thought of herself as someone who was good at expressing her emotions. But when it came to Nathan, the stakes always felt higher. One misstep, one poorly chosen word, and she feared the fragile connection between them would shatter. So Nathan, leaning back against the sofa. His mood was quieter now, and almost nostalgic, and he asked, "Do you remember the first time we met?" Emma nodded. "Yes, at Pleasure Park in Port Harcourt. Where you were standing in front of that massive painting of a colourful sunset. And I asked if you thought the artist painted it from an actual portrait or just imagined it." "Oh, that's true," Nathan replied. "And then, I felt the portrait feels real. Although, I didn't know at the time that you'd spend the next few years making me feel like I'd finally found something real." Emma felt a lump rise in her throat. She wanted to cling to that memory, to the way their conversations used to flow so easily, like a river carrying them both towards some shared horizon. But the current had shifted somewhere along the way, and now it felt like they were each rowing in different directions. "Nathan," she said softly, "why do you think it's so hard for us to talk now? We used to be so good at it." He was quiet for a moment, his eyes fixed on the rain-streaked window. "I think we started assuming things about each other," he said finally. "I assumed you always knew what I was thinking, and you assumed I didn't care enough to listen. We stopped asking questions." Emma's heart ached at the truth in his words. She thought of all the times she had stayed silent, waiting for him to notice her pain without ever telling him about it. And she thought of the times he had tried to share something vulnerable with her, only for her to dismiss it because she was too wrapped up in her own worries. "I don't want to keep doing this," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't want to keep building walls when what I really want is to let you in." Nathan leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "Then let's start over," he said. "Right here, right now. No assumptions, no walls. Just honesty." Emma looked at him, searching his face for any sign of hesitation. But all she saw was sincerity, and for the first time in what felt like ages, she felt a glimmer of hope. "Okay," she said, setting her teacup down and wrapping the blanket more tightly around her shoulders. "But where do we even start?" Nathan thought for a moment, then picked up the notebook he had been fidgeting with earlier. I wrote something. It's kind of embarrassing, but it helped me figure out what I wanted to say." Emma raised an eyebrow, curiosity flickering in her eyes, and said, "You wrote something? You, Nathan? You barely passed English class." He chuckled and replied, "Yeah, well, desperate times call for desperate measures." They both smiled. So, he opened the notebook and began to read aloud. His voice was steady but tinged with vulnerability. He said, Emma, I know I don't always say the right things. I know I can be stubborn and quiet, and sometimes it seems like I'm not paying attention. But the truth is, I see you. I see how hard you try to make things work, even when I make it harder than it needs to be. I see how much you care, even when I don't say thank you as often as I should. And I want you to know that I care, too. I don't want us to just coexist. I want us to succeed. I want us to be the team we used to be, the one that could face anything together. But I know that starts with me being better at communicating. So here's my promise. I'll start asking more questions. I'll start listening more, really listening, instead of just waiting for my turn to talk. And I'll start telling you how I feel, even when it scares me. Because you are worth it. We are really worth it. By the time he finished, Emma's eyes were brimming with tears. She reached across the space between them, her fingers brushing against his. Nathan, with her voice breaking, she said, "Thank you. For saying all of that. For writing it. It means more to me than I can even put into words." He squeezed her hand gently, a small smile playing at his lips. "I just wanted you to know how much you mean to me. And how much I want us to get this right." Emma nodded, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief and love. "I want that too. And I promise to do my part. I'll stop expecting you to read my mind, and I'll start being more honest about what I need." They sat there for a long time, their hands intertwined, as the storm outside began to subside. The rain slowed to a gentle drizzle, and the clouds parted just enough to let a sliver of moonlight shine through. For the first time in months, Emma and Nathan felt like they were on the same page. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a beginning, a promise to keep learning, to keep trying, and to keep talking. Because in the end, they realized, love wasn't about never making mistakes. It was about choosing each other, every day, and finding the courage to speak their hearts, even when it was hard. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Nathan slowly began to rebuild the foundation of their relationship. It wasn't always easy. There were moments of frustration, missteps, and the occasional temptation to fall back into old patterns. But they were learning, bit by bit, that communication was not a one-time fix. It was a daily practice, like tending to a garden. The following Saturday, Nathan surprised Emma with a day trip to the countryside. He packed a picnic basket with her favorite sandwiches, a soft blanket, and the notebook he had written in the night they reconciled. "What's all this?" Emma asked as Nathan guided her to a spot beneath a sprawling oak tree. "A new tradition," Nathan said, spreading the blanket on the grass. "I was thinking we could come out here once a month, just the two of us, and write down how we're feeling, what's going well, what's been hard, and anything we need to say to each other. That way, even when life gets busy, we don't lose sight of this." Emma's heart swelled. "That's really thoughtful, Nathan. I love it." Before we continue, please like and subscribe to our channel to watch more relationship and love stories. Okay, let's get back to it. They spent the afternoon lounging under the tree, trading stories and writing in the notebook. Nathan went first, reading aloud a passage he had written about how grateful he was for the changes they were making. Emma followed, sharing her own thoughts about how much lighter she felt now that she wasn't bottling everything up. "So," Nathan said, swirling the wine in his glass, "how was work today?" Emma smiled and said, "Well, better. I finally told my boss I was feeling overwhelmed with that new project. I was so nervous, but I'm glad I said something. My boss was surprisingly understanding." "That's great, you see. You're getting better at saying what you need." Emma chuckled and said, "Well, I guess I am. But, honestly, it's partly because of you." "Me?" Nathan raised an eyebrow. Emma said, "You know, Nathan, we are not perfect. But I think we are perfect for each other. Seeing you make such an effort with your words, it inspired me to do the same. I used to think vulnerability made me weak, but now I realize it's the opposite." Nathan smiled, nodding his head. He said, "Yeah. And that's more than enough." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over the fields, Emma turned to Nathan and said, "Do you realize how much better we are at this now? I mean, we're actually talking, really talking." Nathan grinned. "Yeah, it feels different. Like we're finally on the same team again." Emma nodded. "I think I used to see you as the problem. Like if only you'd change, everything would be fine. But now I realize we both had things to work on. And instead of blaming each other, we're actually working together." Nathan's expression grew thoughtful. "You know what I've learned through all this?" "What?" Emma asked, resting her chin in her hand. "That communication isn't just about words. It's about listening too. Really listening. Not just hearing the other person, but trying to understand where they're coming from. I think I used to focus so much on defending myself that I missed what you were actually saying." Emma smiled. "And I used to expect you to just know what I was feeling without me saying it. I thought if I had to explain it, it meant you didn't care enough. But that's not fair, is it?" Nathan shook his head. "No, it's not. But the good thing is, we're figuring it out. And we'll keep figuring it out." Emma leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. "I think that's the best lesson we've learned so far, that it's okay to not have all the answers. As long as we're willing to keep showing up for each other, we'll be fine." Nathan held her gently, his arm wrapping around her shoulders. "Exactly. No matter what comes our way, we'll face it together." After some minutes of silence, Emma was convinced that Nathan was the right man for her. So she looked at Nathan and said, "Nathan, last month, you said you would be coming to see my parents for a formal introduction." "Oh, that's true. Don't worry. I am planning something big and special." Few months later, Nathan decided to leave his exhausting job to pursue the woodworking business he had always dreamed of. So God blessed him and he made a huge profit after a period of time. He moved out of his rented apartment into a slightly bigger one with sunlit windows and just enough library space for his ever-growing collection of books. It was then that Nathan invited Emma and proposed to her. Isn't that beautiful? On their wedding day, they invited family members and friends to celebrate with them. Although, the night before the ceremony, they sat together in a quiet place and added one last entry to their book before saying their vows. They wrote that, "No matter what comes next, we choose each other always." Their marriage was founded on the Bible verse that says, "And now abide faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love." 1 Corinthians 13 verse 13. Immediately after exchanging their vows before the priest, Nathan pressed a kiss on Emma's forehead. She became shy and grinned gently. Years later, as they flipped through the now worn pages of the notebook, they marveled at how much they had grown. The lessons they had learned in life and how they built their pattern of communication became the bedrock of their relationship, not just with each other but with everyone in their lives. They learned to listen without judgment, to speak with kindness, and to approach every conversation with a spirit of curiosity and openness. After a few months, Emma became pregnant. She was so excited to be a mother. God blessed Nathan and Emma with 4 kids, and they are living happily together. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, share your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on Heartlink Life to encourage us to produce more inspiring stories.